German Empire, founded in 1871 by Otto von Bismarck, and became one of the strongest nations in the early 20th century. But it's not only Germany that got very powerful. France, the United Kingdom, and Russia. They were all starting to reach a level and didn't want Germany on their side. So, they went to war, and Germany was defeated. After the defeat, German Empire collapsed and replaced by the Weimar Republic. But Weimar had many problems because of the unstable economy. This hit especially the villager population, as the government began to take their crops by force in some areas, leading to starvation and famine for the poor people. And then Hitler came and said he can fix everything. The German people loved him, but when election day came, he got no votes at all. So in order to seize power, it is obvious that he must look like a hero to the German people. At that time, communist parties were popular among the young generation, and some adults were not happy about this. Also, there are some arguments that this is because of the communist propaganda in schools. Anyway, while all of these happening, in a calm Monday night, a group of people sneaked in the Reichstag building to burn it, also known as the Reichstag Fire. And although there was no evidence, it was a great opportunity for Hitler to blame the communists and take over their popularity. This made Hitler's party the strongest after the next election, making him the one and only leader of the Germany. In 1939, after Germany had invaded Poland and France, it became the most powerful state in Europe. But after that, the fact that Britain is an island country ruined Hitler's plans to end the war at the beginning. So Hitler wanted to put his plan to invade the Soviet Union into action without further delay. But there are some problems with this, because some generals were arguing that the invasion of the Soviet Union is an impossible task because of the vast geography and could result in a disaster for Germany. Instead, they suggested focusing on North Africa and take the oil fields there and possibly hit the Soviet Union from below, while others were arguing that they could invade the Soviets within a maximum of 4 weeks, and that would make the Germany an unbeatable power with the resources came from them. These discussions divided the German generals into two, and they continued to argue for a long time without finding a result. But in the end, final decision was made by Hitler in June 1941 by starting the invasion. At the beginning of the war, the German army made good progress, especially the Army Group North and the Center. But there is a problem. The places captured by Germany are quite empty in terms of resources. There are no factories or resources, completely empty. This made Hitler furious as he thought that Germany lost its time for nothing. Additionally, they promised the Romanians extra coal in exchange for their oil, but they failed to get it. So Hitler decided to focus on somewhere else, to the south, Ukraine. Ukraine had more resources and was also already well known as the grain storage of Europe. And because of the food and logistic problems that was growing day by day for Germans, taking the grain storage of the Soviet Union is now more important than ever. And even though he disagreed with his generals, which some arguing that it was more important to take Moscow, Hitler had the last word, so the German army decided to march south. Now, even though everything looks bad for the Soviet Union, they actually think they are doing a pretty good job. The reason behind this is Stalin. During the invasion, Stalin had a very paranoid habit of not allowing the generals to do what they intended to do, just like his enemy. And his mental health was not going in a good way because of the current situation. But there was still hope. Stalin had predicted that the next German attack would be on Ukraine, so he moved most of the Red Army there to outnumber the Germans. Secondly, there are many forts in Ukraine that were built before the war, and his last point is, Ukraine is naturally protected by rivers, so the Germans have no chance to cross it easily. His generals liked this idea. From then on, Stalin thought that there is no way they can defeat our numerically superior army, which located behind the river and have forts that already built. Until Germans made the biggest encirclement in the military history. Now, if you really thought that the Germans would try to pass through a fortified position full of Soviet soldiers, you might be mistaking this with another battle. In reality, the Germans had another brilliant plan to push the Soviets back, not from where they were prepared, but from the flanks. In this way, they easily destroyed nearly 1 million Soviet troops. After this defeat, the Soviet army became even more intolerant of Stalin, while the German army became even more impressed with Hitler's military genius. From then on, it is obvious that the Soviet army needs to change its war doctrine, because it looks like Germany is winning. Well, Stalin, it looks like the Germans are preparing for a new summer offensive. They are also placing more troops in the south, probably because they will make their second attack on our oil fields. It is obvious that we must move the army there. What do you think? Stalin made a big mistake by shifting his defenses towards the north, and this gave the Germans a great chance to destroy the Southern Army very quickly. However, some generals did not understand why Germany shifted its focus back to a different target than Moscow, because everyone, including Stalin, expected the Germans to attack Moscow and end the war. Look, even if we take Moscow, we can't see the end of the war because we don't have oil. And because Italians messed up in the North Africa, the only way to get oil for us is take the oil fields in the south. Did you get it? Yeah, but why don't we just use the oil coming from Romania? Because United States, the biggest air power in the world, just joined the war, and its first targets are clearly where the Germany gets the oil. From Romania to Hungary, even the synthetic fuel refineries in Germany are not safe anymore. Because although the Luftwaffe could stop both the British and Soviet air forces, the United States Air Force was too much for them to handle. Now, despite everything, Germans are ready to move south and plunder some delicious oil. Just one problem, again. While retreating, the Soviet army destroyed most of the oil refineries on their way, leaving the south an empty field for the Germans. Now the Germans have two options. Either they can go deep into the south and try to capture the cities with rich oil fields, but they have to go through a mountainous region, which is not quite possible because their southern army is mostly made up of tank units, and tanks are bad with mountains. Or they can gather the army and move to Stalingrad. Well, moving our entire army to a strategically unimportant city when we have no oil seems like a pretty good idea. Yes, and even better, let's deploy the weak Romanians and Hungarians on the flanks without anti-tank guns so that Soviet tank units can easily flank the German army inside the city in the future.